Welcome to What's the Story Dublin, the official Dublin City Council podcast with me, your host, Deirdre Malumbi. This podcast deep dives into the work of all the moving parts that make up Dublin City Council. It also shares news of the Council's latest initiatives and exciting events. In today's episode, we're looking at the nighttime economy. I'm joined in studio today by Ray O'Donoghue, who is the Nighttime Economy Advisor at Dublin City Council. Ray, you're very welcome.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm so excited to launch into today's topic. But Ray, I think that it might make sense to start by asking, for the totally uninitiated, what does nighttime economy actually mean?
I guess it's everything between 6 o'clock in the evening till 6 o'clock in the morning. And it really encompasses everything from cultural events to entertainment, hospitality, festivals, sport, even retail. So kind of everything within that time frame is included within the nighttime economy. And I kind of like the nighttime advisor almost at that because I feel like the role has become a little bit more than just about the economy. It's about Dublin in general and the kind of cultural side of Dublin and just Dublin as a brand itself, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And the whole idea of the nighttime economy within Dublin City Council, it's a fairly new concept. So I was wondering if you could talk us through some of the factors that led to the creation of kind of this nighttime economy strategy that we have now and what exactly that is.
I think it goes back to a task force that was put in place in and around the time of COVID, but there was talk before COVID even, so you're going back 5 years, and one of the recommendations of that task force was to install nighttime advisors around the country. There's currently 9 in cities and some towns in around the country, and obviously Dublin, I've been in the role for just over a year, 14, 15 months now, and obviously Dublin is included within those 9 cities and towns. And I think it was a little while coming before I actually did end up getting the job. So it's well timed, because I mean, you look at places like Berlin have a club commission since 2000, and they're very much behind the whole nighttime scene. And as I said, the nighttime scene encompasses everything. It's not just about clubs or anything, but they have looked at it seriously as a cultural phenomenon. Same with Amsterdam. They've had a nightmare since 2012, and London and various cities all around the States. And I think there's about 100 in the position, at least 100 of varying names between nightmares and night czars and nighttime economy advisors and so on. I don't like the name night czar, by the way, just in case, just to make that point. I have been kind of colloquially known as the nightmare, which I don't mind, which I think is kind of funny, but it kind of explains things a little bit better maybe, or when people are going, what do you do? So...
Yeah, and it's interesting you listed some other cities there. Are there factors that make, Dublin's nighttime economy different to, like, say, its European or international counterparts?
Well, I think what makes Dublin different from the rest of the country, and with the risk of, with the greatest respect to the cities and towns of the rest of the country, the other 8 cities and towns that are involved in the pilot scheme, Dublin, I was working it out there recently, is population of over 2.5 times the population of all the others put together. So, I mean, you can tell that is quite a large population and quite a job, really. So, I think that's an important point, and that, I guess, leads into your question there. I think we're more on a par with those European cities and those capitals, and I think more, obviously we've quite a bit in common with some of those cities, and I've been lucky enough this year to get to visit a few of them early on in the year, and maybe I'll get to visit some more early on next year. Just kind of too busy now to get around to it at the minute, but I was able to get to Edinburgh, Glasgow, Krakow, all similar, Lisbon, similar-ish kind of populations, and all that varying levels of what should we say, like varying levels of governance within their nighttime economy. Some of them are way ahead, some are a bit behind, and others are on a par.
Absolutely, yeah. And actually, I think that now it makes sense to maybe talk a bit about the career path that led to your role as nighttime economy advisor, because it is such a newly formed role. So it'd be interesting to hear that.
Yeah, well, I guess I started off kind of from when I left school. I've been a musician, a DJ, even tried my hand at acting and comedy early on. Obviously, wasn't a very successful comedian, so that didn't last very long. But I was very much a DJ and musician, and then that led me into putting on my own club nights, and then I started bringing over DJs from across the water and from around the world, and then that led into, so I became a promoter about 25 years ago, and then that led into festivals around the same time. Started off at DJ festivals, and then that led into C-Sessions Festival, which I probably would have been known for, and ran that for 15 years, and all the time, promoting various events all around the country. And I think the whole festival director thing would have made, there's some form of similarity, say, between the role now, because I was dealing with statutory agents, I was dealing with councils, I was dealing with then everything from artists to site managers to event controllers, all of these people, and I knew a little bit about everything, and not a whole lot about one particular subject, but I guess I was coming from that musical background, that kind of booking and so on. But I did start learning bit by bit about security. I didn't know anything about a generator, say, or know anything about the size of a panel of fencing, but I learned as I went along. So all of those things, and I think that just that communicating with all various stakeholders within the festival world was very similar to communicating with stakeholders throughout the Dublin City world, and between, obviously, I'm within the council, but I'm paid by the Department of Culture and Communications, and I'm doing some work now funded by the Department of Justice. So there's a lot of people involved just from that point of view. And then I have a steering group, which is everyone from, I should know it off the top of my head at this stage, but Dublin City Council, to the Guards, to the Vintners, Dublin Town, Restaurant Association, Fáilte, all of these people, and they're all very helpful and all feeding into what we're trying to do for the city in general, I think. That was a long answer to your question there.
Yes. No, but I mean, it does show kind of the rich background that you came from, and that investment, the amount of time that you've spent in events and festivals and stuff like that. So kind of, I suppose this was like a very, natural transition for you into this role. And did you have any kind of priorities or things in mind that you wanted to bring when you started in the role as Nighttime Economy Advisor?
I think I was conscious of the fact that I was coming very much from that festival kind of cultural background, so I didn't want to concentrate too much on that, because that was, something that I knew I would always be able to get involved in. So I think I kind of been concentrating more on safety initiatives and stuff like that I wouldn't have been my forte, but now actually. They were very much part of the strategy, and the strategy came about in October of last year, 2024, and there was 3 pillars to within that strategy: cultural activity, transport, and safety. And that's the overarching, but they all feed into each other, really. But I think the whole safety side of things, I really wanted to that's the question, that's the topic it keeps coming back up and up, especially with this slightly older generation. They're like, it's not safe, Dublin's not safe, and I'm trying to help them, believe that it actually isn't an unsafe city, and globally it's not an unsafe city. And I know it's easy to say that, and people see stuff on social media, and they see videos and see this and that, and they hear this and they hear that, but I think it really isn't an unsafe city, and I think we need to kind of prove to them that we're putting together initiatives to help with that safety. And I think the guards have done a lot of work, and there's a lot more guards on the streets now, and everyone is telling me that, stakeholders are telling me, people on the street are telling me that. And then we brought in the likes of and I know we're going to talk about it, the Help Zone, or otherwise known as the Nee-Naw, which is literally only just in, but it's been a lot of work in getting that up and live, and a lot of people involved, and a lot of stakeholders involved in getting that from an idea around a table to actually being live on the street.
Yeah, just before we talk about that initiative, just what you were speaking about there, that was something I kind of wanted to ask you about as well, was managing that balance. Because I suppose when I think of, nighttime economy and kind of late night activity, whatever you want to call it, there is that balance you need to achieve between providing people with fun, with entertainment, inclusivity, diversity, but also managing safety and welfare. So over the past year, how have you found managing that balance so far?
I think I kind of always go back to that strategy and say, okay, well, as soon as I was in the door, I started working on that strategy. And I literally was in from the start of April, say, And I had a draft of the strategy in May, which was quite early. And then it obviously went through various manifestations and various drafts, and then went through stakeholder engagement, senior management, internally within DCC, right across the board, Department of Culture, so on. And we eventually came with the strategy that was launched a few months later in early October 2024. So I think I consistently go back to that and was working on that strategy from the word go, and was already, before it was even published, there were parts of that strategy that were taking shape around the city, and I think it's kind of a balance. If you feel like you're concentrating too much on the cultural activity and so on, maybe then go, okay, well, what are we doing about safety, or what are we trying to do about transport? Not that I have control over transport, but I can advocate and I can work on that as well. And I think it kind of just goes back to those three pillars, and just a kind of spread of all of that. And the strategy is there for anyone to see or anyone to read it if any interest. And that will give you a good idea of what we're trying to achieve, I guess.
Brilliant. So let's talk a bit now about the Dublin Night Help Zone, aka the Nee-Naw. And I believe there was kind of a similar idea, kind of a welfare zone that ran last Christmas. Would this have been kind of inspired by that? Or?
Yeah, well, it was actually, not that it was inspired by it. I think the idea was always there to do. Originally, I said I wanted to do a safe bus. It was called a Safe Bus Project, and I applied for a community safety fund back in July of 2024 again, so early days, and that got the green light back in October, and in advance of that, we tried it for one night on Culture Night, and just to try it and see what happened. It was actually, everyone was very well behaved, and there was not a whole lot going on from a safety point of view, which was good to see. But we said, well, let's try it at Christmas, and we did it over 3 nights at Christmas. And it was more activity, there was more going on, and we called it the welfare area, and we learned a lot from that pilot, that very short pilot. And as I said, all the time, the idea was there. It started as the Safe Bus Project. The welfare area was a stationary area. It was like a porta cabin, and we said no. The whole idea was to have it as a mobile unit, so we can pilot it in various areas, or we can maybe have one, maybe have 2 of them, who knows. And I think that it's been great. Really from the top down, like Richard Shakespeare has been a huge supporter of it from the start, and even the fire brigade, the Gardaí, everyone in the department, right across the board have all been great supporters of it and liked the idea. And so there's been that encouragement, despite the difficulty in juggling all the various parties involved, and all the, of course, as always is with projects like this, there is quite a lot of bureaucracy and so on. But it finally went up and live, and it was a nice sense of achievement to see it actually out there. And it's only very early days, but we already helped the Gardaí with certain incidents, and saved a few A&E visits, and helped out a few people that are on a night out, and it was very welcome, and even down to the residents and businesses, and everyone seemed to welcome the sight of it on the streets.
Brilliant. And that's not the only initiative that you've been involved with. There have also been a number of kind of late night or after dark activities that kind of your department, your area have organised around different holidays and festivals. For example, you mentioned there Culture Night, St. Patrick's Day as well. Can you tell us a bit about those kind of late night activities and that side of the work?
I think we did a lot of late night versions of already established festivals, and I probably started with Culture Night, and we did Culture Night Late Night Music Trail. It was called Nocturnal Beats, and it was the first time that Culture Night went into late night, even into clubs and so on. And that was 7 venues.
They all sold out very quickly.
And it was they were all free events, but there was a huge uptake, and it was like top 10 in the Irish Times things to do, which was great because it was 1,700 events over throughout the country. So it was really good to see that being received so well straight off the bat. And then it led us to do St. Patrick's After Dark, Bridget Late back in February. We did Culture Late in Dublin 8, another version of that. Upcoming is Liberty's Festival Talking Shop, which is in July, and that's a more late activity. There was the Dublin Book Festival After Dark series. I sponsored that one as well. So there's been a lot of versions of already established festivals, and we've done these later versions of them and standalone versions, and they've all been very successful. Bike Week, even, we did a screening of a movie in Meeting House Square, and that was really popular as well. So I think it's we're not creating brand new festivals, but just adding on and enhancing these already established festivals. But in saying that, we did have the first ever instalment of Comedy Culture in the Capital, which was a mini comedy festival in the North Inner City. We did it in the Hugh Lane Gallery, in the Ambassador, Big Romance, Flowing Tide, and those venues based all around Parnell Street. So we're hoping to bring that back in again later in the year. So there was lots going on, plenty going on, and I do have backing of I don't have my own exact team as of yet, but I do have people within Dublin City Council that are being very helpful and helping me with everything. But hopefully soon I'll have my own team, and we can really push on with the strategy.
Yeah, and it's really exciting as well. And it just goes to show that people are looking to engage with culture even late into the night, and kind of when they go to, like, you know, these different festival and events, to just keep the night going, you know, to just keep on going to different events, and, you know, for the fun to just never stop, I suppose.
Yeah, and that is part of it, but also there's an appetite for free activity, and we did the summer nights thing. I think that's just launching again for July and August, and we did that last year, and that didn't finish too late. It was like 9 o'clock in the evening, 10 o'clock in the evening, and then it was great to see the likes of Hugh Lane Gallery putting on activity on Thursday evenings. Again, you know, a great example of a night out in Dublin where you didn't have to spend a fortune. You could go to the gallery, spend an hour or two there, pop around the corner to one of the many great establishments in Capel Street or Parnell Street. There's some great world restaurants there, and very good value as well. So there is ways and means of having a night out in Dublin without breaking the bank, and actually being culturally broad, should we say.
Absolutely. Love that. And I know you've kind of teased already some of the events and initiatives that we can look forward to in the latter half of 2025, but can you tell us a bit more, whatever you're allowed to disclose that is?
What am I allowed to talk about? Well, as I said, that Liberties Festival Talk and Shop is end of July. Summer Nights is going to be happening in Meeting House Square in July and a bit of August. There's a Culture Night Late Nocturnal Beats. We're going to do that again in September. And probably I did sponsored a New Year's music trail last year, so we'll probably be doing that again. That was in a bunch of venues, free again, and that was over New Year's Eve and on January 30th and on this January the 1st. So more of that happening, and as I said, I'm really trying to concentrate on that free, low-cost activity. I think that's important. There's a couple of other exciting ones we're working on, but I'd rather not let the cat out of the bag as of yet. And then there's some safety. There's safety training for night workers, which is a Safe and Sound campaign. We're probably bringing a Safe and Sound pro-social, anti-social behaviour campaign back out again. So plenty going on, that's for sure. Absolutely,
plenty to look forward to. So I suppose, Ray, we're kind of coming to the end here, but thank you so much for taking out the time to speak with us today. I suppose for my last question, and I'd just love to look to the future, and what are kind of your hopes for what the nighttime economy in Dublin is going to become, going to shape into, and how would you like to contribute to that?
Well, I think importantly, we're working as well on trying to quantify what the nighttime economy is actually worth to Dublin, and I think that's an important piece of work, and of having those conversations with the economist and Dublin City Council, and it would be great to really give it a figure, and then it would give it more credibility. People say, oh, it's worth 15 billion. I believe that it has to be worth in around 15 billion to the economy, benchmarking it based on UK's nighttime economy. We have a similar culture, obviously a smaller percentage of people, but based on, if you're benchmarking on that, it could be worth in around 15, even more than 15 billion. So it is an important and credible part of our economy, but not only the economy, I think it's the culture of the Dublin City at night, and I'd love to see people being proud of Dublin again at night and say, you know what, I went in, I had a great night, and it was safe, and there was loads of people around, and it was really enjoyable, and we just and I forgot how great Dublin City is, and how many places that are in the city that you're not going to get in your local, or you're not going to get sitting on your couch watching Netflix. You know, it's like, get yourself back into the city and enjoy it, because the more people that are there, the merrier, the safer it is, the smiling faces are back, you know. So I'm hoping that in some way I can make some form of difference to that narrative, I suppose. That'd be my goal, really. But I'm not sure how long more I'm going to be in the position, like definitely another year or so, but it could be longer, who knows. But that's what I'd like to see.
Brilliant. That's all perfect. And as a proud Dubliner and a culture enthusiast, all sounds brilliant. Thank you so much for that, Ray. I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us today and everything. And we're very much looking forward to seeing what the nighttime economy brings us next.
Brilliant. Okay. Thank you for having me.
And thanks again to today's guest, Ray O'Donoghue. I'd also like to extend my thanks to our audio engineer and editor, Robert Fay. This podcast was produced by myself, Deirdre Malumbi, and Michael Ryan, and recorded in the Central Library Studio. Be sure to spread the word if you're enjoying What's the Story Dublin, and to like and subscribe for future episodes. Slán go fóill.